I have been a fan of the fantasy genre since I was a boy. My dad would read to me before I could read, and then any of my free time spent reading has always been, well, more often than not, has been reading fantasy genre.
Henry Cavill's departure from The Witcher has been a hotly debated topic in recent years, generating a sea of controversies, including false rumors that were later denied, misunderstandings stemming from DC's uncertainty about the direction of the film franchise, and more plausible but never officially confirmed hypotheses. This makes it a little complicated to sum up everything and identify a specific reason why Cavill had left the series, but in my opinion it is clear as day.
You are genuinely a fan of the books and the game and everything. Apparently on set, you know more than anyone else.
I wouldn't necessarily say anyone else, but I'm a big fan.
Yes.
I'm a big fan.
As usual, I would like to remind you of my books. If you like science fiction, you can find them on Amazon in ebook and paperback. Links in the description.
So do you correct people?
I don't necessarily... I am effusive about getting the... being loyal to the source material. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Yeah. So yes, you do.
I doubt Henry Cavill needs any introduction, but since a little more in-depth knowledge of his character and passions is essential to understanding the reason for his withdrawal from the series, here is a brief characterization. Henry Cavill has always been a nerd of the best kind. He grew up like one of us, just a little more trophy, despite some presenters trying to ridicule his passions.
One of your hobbies, and he's got a lot of them, ladies and gentlemen, one of your hobbies is you paint...
Makes me sound weird.
Well, you do have more hobbies than the average man, I'd say. But you paint, is it World of Warcraft?
Warhammer.
Warhammer, I'm a fool.
It's Warhammer, Greg.
Okay, Warhammer. So you paint by hand?
Yes, yeah.
Does everyone do that, or can you buy them already
no,
painted?
you have to paint them, but it's just how much effort you put into it.
And you put a lot of effort.
There's the painting, modelling side of the hobby, and then there's the gaming side of the hobby.
Okay. And when you paint them, what do you do with them then, Henry?
Then you put them together in little armies and you fight against someone else's army. It is fun.
Oh,
I mean,
very
it sounds
fun.
ridiculous, but it is fun.
Yeah, no, toys, very good fun.
Sure, painting miniatures for a war game is weird, right? Folk, it's weird. On the other hand, knowing hundreds of football teams and thousands of players by heart, including periods of activity, injuries, team changes, and following the transfer market is normal because ordinary people talk about that at the bar. But miniatures... Ha! Did you know you can buy them already painted? Laugh, folks, laugh. On the contrary, Felicia Day is enthusiastic about it.
Now we're on Netflix Geeked, so let's talk about what you guys personally geek out about. Henry, let's start with you.
I mean, the easy answer is Warhammer 40,000. That is my jam. I have been into it since I was 10.
Amazing. I'd love to see your armies. Do you paint them yourself?
I do, yes.
That's so cool.
But the fact that she is a woman of culture has been known to the world for at least 25 years. Here you can see him assembling his gaming PC, and an anecdote he loves to tell is how he missed Zack Snyder's call because he was playing World of Warcraft. In several interviews he says he loves the Witcher games so much that he has played The Witcher 3 from start to finish multiple times. So it's clear that he is a big fan of The Witcher, probably more than me and you. This led him to actively pursue the role of Geralt. As soon as he found out that a series about The Witcher was in production, he says he practically stalked the showrunner Lauren Hissrich, repeatedly proposing himself for the role. She says that Cavill had become unbearable and that she told him they would consider him, but couldn't promise him the part.
We got through eventually and they said, look, we haven't got a script yet, we've barely got a showrunner, so we can't give you an answer.
But you front-loaded your interest, and
yes.
that's got to help
they
right there.
They knew that I wanted it, for sure.
They then auditioned a flood of actors for Geralt, eventually choosing Cavill, who proved to be perfect fit for the role. Not surprisingly, fans were initially concerned that Henry Cavill was too handsome to play Geralt, who is described in the book as feral and disturbing to look at. But then, when the first season dropped, everyone loved him.
I played the video games before reading the books. I thought the books were based upon the games because anytime I saw a Witcher book, it was always game art on the cover. And after meeting with Lauren, she told me about the books. I ended up reading the books and loving them. I've been a fan of fantasy genre since I was knee-high to a grasshopper. And so, for me, it was a real treat to jump into that. And Sapkowski's writing, incredible.
For him, this meant playing Geralt, a dream come true, bringing one of his favorite characters to the screen. So why did he leave the role? Over time, various theories have circulated, suggesting that he was fired, that he wanted to focus on the Superman films, or that he left due to creative differences with the production. Let's analyze them from the beginning. Was Henry Cavill fired? Rumors circulated early on that he had been fired due to conflict with the showrunner Lauren Hisrich, because according to a transcript that was leaked by who knows how and who knows why, it seemed that Cavill had become impossible to work with, ignoring the female writers and directors and bullying the women involved in the series, that his comments were disrespectful, toxic, sexist and obscene. And I'm not exaggerating, that's exactly what it said. And that he had gone so far to do everything he could to slow down filming and damaging the series. Now I find this a little hard to believe, because the source is anonymous and unreliable, and Cavill seems like a good guy to me, but you never know. What seems more telling to me is the fact that Cavill never failed to promote the series at events and talk shows, both before and after his departure, speaking highly of the show, the showrunner, his colleagues, and everyone involved, inviting the public to follow the series even after Liam Hemsworth took his place. This doesn't seem like the behavior of a toxic person who does everything to damage the show. If you want an example of someone who boycotted a movie because he hated the script, look no further than Wesley Snipes in Blade Trinity. Although it must be said that many people in the production hated the scripts of the movie.
Ever since I can remember, I've had this knife of sadness in my heart. The moment that I take it out, I'll just die.
So he was in good company.
And unlike typical vampires, her fangs are located in her vagina. Moving on.
At that time, Snipes was overwhelmed with his ego due to his success and went beyond simply mocking the script.
Were you in Blade?
I was in. Oh, I wish I was in Blade. The first two movies are fantastic. I am in Blade Trinity, which is no. Here's what I'll say about Blade Trinity. If you watch, and by the way, I'm friends with the writer-director, and he agrees with me on this. If you just sit and watch Blade Trinity, it's a D-. It just doesn't work. But if you know what they went through to get that movie made, it is an A+. The fact that movie exists puts it above Citizen Kane. The fact that they, with all the craziness that went down, we were in Vancouver and Wesley Snipes was going crazy and he wouldn't come out of his trailer, and you'd walk by his trailer and this wall of pot stench would just be like, whoa, and kind of push you to the side. And then he would only answer to the name Blade. You couldn't call him.
He would only answer to Blade?
The Blade, yeah. And after a while, he resorted to just he would communicate with Post-its that he would give to the director, and each one he would sign Blade.
Apparently, he even refused to take part in filming with the rest of the cast, and apart from the close-ups, if you don't see him directly in the face, it's extremely likely that it was actually his stuntman. During one scene, he even refused to open his eyes at the moment when Blade was supposed to wake up, and the production was forced to add them in CG. Those are the infamous CG eyes. Henry Cavill was definitely nervous during filming, because he didn't like the adaptation either. You know, the fans of The Witcher weren't crazy about it, myself included, because they distorted a lot of things, even important things. So I guess Cavill was also frustrated and tried to do everything he could to take the show back on track. As he said several times, he kept advising the production to follow the books, and when there were things he really didn't like, such as the scene of Roach's death, his response wasn't "fuck you all, I'm going to get high in my trailer," like Snipes in Blade Trinity, but he did his best to improve the scene. In case you haven't read the books, Geralt has a mare named Roach, but at one point, I think while talking to Dandelion, he says that all his horses are named Roach. This suggested that he had many and many mares that have died. Lauren Hisrich said that when Roach died in the show, which the staff referred to Roach 1, knowing that there would be others, her instinct was to use meta-humor. But Cavill opposed to this, preferring a more touching approach. In fact, Geralt always establishes an affectionate relationship with his mounts, and he often travels alone, and they are the only company for most of the time, so it's normal for him to become attached to them. Henry was so unhappy with the line. Finally, I said, "You know what? You come up with something. I trust you. You know the material so well, you know the books so well. You don't even have to pitch it to me." And he came back the next day with a beautiful speech that's at the end of the Sword of Destiny when Geralt is facing death. And it's such a pitch-perfect moment. So I would say that Henry Cavill behaved like a true gentleman. Furthermore, these rumors were denied by Hisrich herself, who said that the separation was amicable. They were also denied by statements from the entire cast, who were given the news of Cavill's departure just before the last day of filming, so it came as quite a shock to them. Joy Beatty, Freya Allan and Anita Chalotra said they were extremely sorry. Joy says they still talk regularly and have become great friends. After all, they both share a great passion for Warhammer 40k and other nerdy stuff.
The easy answer is Warhammer 40,000. That is my jam. I have been into it since I was 10.
What's your army at the moment?
Custodes.
Yeah, I'm going Necrons next year.
Necrons?
Oh.
Okay, all right, cool.
Were you
Shall we-
into?
Yes.
Were you into this before, or is this a new thing?
Let's just assume that anything nerdy I've been doing for a good 33
Oh wow,
years.
we could talk for hours.
Yeah, no,
Anya said she considered him a part of her family after working closely with him for 5 years, and Freya cried on the set the day she found out. So it seems that all in all, working with Henry Cavill wasn't so bad after all. Just to remind us how certain accusations fly a little too high in the circles from time to time. And in fact, watching a few interviews with the cast, you can see the great chemistry between the four of them. If you want to find out more, I recommend The Witcher Unlocked with Felicia Day, where it's really nice to see them all chatting together. It's clear they love each other and are real friends. Cavill had stated that he is extremely demanding and protective of the original material when playing roles that are dear to him, such as Geralt or Superman, and that he feels much more relaxed playing, for example, Sherlock Holmes in Enola Holmes, and says he realizes he can be irritating on set when he refuses to shoot certain scenes in certain ways because the character would not have said or done certain things, such as Roach's death, which I mentioned earlier. But from there to accusing him of toxicity and sexism, Well, there's a huge gap. Furthermore, the writers were devastating the original work. Luckily, Cavill was there to defend it, even if it wasn't enough. As a writer and fan, I'm totally on his side. Some have speculated that Cavill was leaving The Witcher to return to playing Superman, perhaps wanting to focus on the DC universe, perhaps to undergo a special training regime for... Well, have you seen him in The Witcher? Does he look like he needs to get any bigger than that? Guys, you need to stop with the obsession with bodybuilders' physiques for action characters. I've heard people say Liam Hemsworth had better get in shape like Cavill, but Cavill was already bigger than Geralt in the games, and in combat you need athletic physiques, not just be huge. Then you end up thinking that's the problem with the series and not the script. They make the actors dehydrate themselves for a couple of shirtless shoots, while the story seems like a sieve.
You have to dehydrate yourself.
Oh yeah, that's the worst part of it. Like, diet is difficult, and you're hungry, but when you're dehydrating for 3 days, you get to the point on the last day where you can smell water, like nearby.
So why do you do that? To get super toned?
It gets it makes your skin really thin, so it sits on the muscles.
But for 3 days, that can't be good. That's not healthy.
It's not no water for 3 days. On the first day, you'll have like 1.5 liters, and the second day, 0.5 liter, and then the third day, no water, and you'll shoot the fourth.
And the funeral is on the 6th day.
Sometimes they don't shoot the scene till the end of the 4th day as well. And so you're the most miserable person on the planet.
Many were confused about this because Cavill appeared as Superman in the post-credits scene of Black Adam, and then released a statement on his social media saying that he was back as Superman. What was supposed to be a taste of things to come.
Hey everyone. I wanted to wait until the weekend was over before posting this, because I wanted to give you all a chance to watch Black Adam. But now that plenty of you have, I wanted to make it official that I am back as Superman. And the image you see on this post and what you saw in Black Adam are just a very small taste of things to come.
Was then badly shot down shortly after by James Gunn, who announced the reboot of the DC universe, because basically it was a time when DC was stumbling around in the dark, banging its head against walls at every turn and living day by day. If they were a Pokemon, it would have been the moment when DC universe is so confused that it hit itself. Cavill's fan went crazy and started insulting James Gunn in a way that only the worst keyboard warrior can. However, Gunn released a statement saying that he did not fire Cavill. He simply did not hire him for the new role of Superman because he wants a younger Superman for his new universe. It's DC management that messed up and created a sea of misunderstandings between all parties involved. Just think that for the movie The Flash, they shot 4 alternative endings, one of which featured Henry Cavill's Superman, because they didn't know which ending they would use. Then the ending was still crap because they didn't even know that they were going to reboot the whole universe when they started shooting Flash. So this movie, which was supposed to be a reboot thanks to Flashpoint, doesn't actually reboot anything because, among other things, Flash is the hero who mostly needs to be rebooted, as Ezra Miller is now a dangerous criminal wanted throughout the United States for a variety of crimes. But why was Henry Cavill rejected in favor of David Corenswet? Easy. Cavill is 42 years old while Corenswet is 32. When they started shooting, he was the same age Cavill was when Man of Steel came out 12 years ago in 2013. Yes, because the first and last Superman movie Cavill made was 12 years ago. He then appeared in Batman v Superman in 2016, Justice League in 2017. No, I won't count the Zack Snyder's version because the film still counts as one.
That still only counts as one!
And in a post-credit scene in Black Adam in 2022, because apparently The Rock pushed hard to get him in so he could muscle his way into the DC universe. At the time of his departure from The Witcher show, he hasn't played Superman in 6 years, which is a long time, and only one real Superman movie in 2013. Come on guys, Cavill was perfect for playing the Man of Steel, I agree with that. But to call him the only real Superman of our generation, as I've seen people do, I mean, don't act like teenagers, guys. He made one movie and appeared in 2 ensemble films. He certainly wasn't what Robert Downey Jr. was to Iron Man, who made 3 movies and appeared in 5 ensemble films. 3 versus 8, almost triple. James Gunn didn't cast Henry Cavill because he wanted a younger Superman to start his new universe. You can say what you want about Gunn, you may not like your style, but he knows how to make movies, and above all, he knows how to make ensemble movies with a large cast. Guardians of the Galaxy proved it 3 times over. He has no intention of making the same mistake they made with Ben Affleck, starting a universe with a geriatric Batman. Snyder cast Affleck when he was 42, too old to start a narrative universe, taking among other things a very peculiar Batman at the end of his career, driven mad by the insanity of Gotham and the death of Robin. In short, a Batman at the end of his journey, clearly unsuitable for starting a universe. In fact, what happened in Batman v Superman is that it destroys his characterization, regressing him to a more sensible version of the Dark Knight. This Batman went around branding criminals with the Bat brand so that everyone could know who had arrested him. He was a psychopath. The last hypothesis that remains, and in my opinion the only reasonable one, is that of creative differences. In a nutshell, the series strayed too far from the original material and Cavill, indignated, left.
With the shift of the showrunner's vision, where it's an ensemble cast more so than a singular lead, and the perspectives is shifted to be almost more of a Cirilla Yennefer perspective. And so it's about finding my character's place within that vision and making sure that I do everything I can to be as faithful to the source material as possible within the structure set out for me.
If that's the case, I can completely understand that, because Henry is such a huge fan of the games and the books, and the writers on the Netflix series have chosen, for whatever reason they did so, to deviate quite severely from the books and the games. Whether that's good or not, it's down to what you like, you know. I personally don't understand the choice.
And let me tell you something, if you haven't read the book, you can know how far it literally strays, because they changed things at the very heart of the saga. To make this video, I read several articles, and they all just compared what was shown on screen with what happened in the book. But that's not all. There are fundamental concepts of Sapkowski's world building that have been radically changed. So articles that say if he really left because of creative differences, it's ironic that he did so after the 3rd season, which has been the most faithful to the original material so far. Because there are now too many things broken at the fundamental level. I don't care the 3rd season is more faithful in what you actually see on screen. The thing is already broken at its core, but I'll give you a list of the most serious mistakes at the end of the video. Moreover, the writers apparently despise the original material. That the series wasn't exactly faithful to the books could already be guessed from the 1st season, based on 2 or 3 factors. But the first sign that something was broken emerged some time later from statements by screenwriter Beau DeMaio, who wrote several episodes of the 1st first season. During a Q&A session on his Instagram profile, talking about how he put together the writer's room for the show X-Men 97 for Disney+, he said, "My general rule was you had to be a fan. No questions. I've been on a show, namely Witcher, where some of the writers were not, or actively disliked the book and games, even actively mocking the source material. It's a recipe for disaster and bad morale. You have to respect the work before you're allowed to add to its legacy." In fact, Lauren Hisrich, the showrunner, has stated that she wanted a wide range of opinions in the writer's room and declared in a Twitter thread that she focused more on the writer's skill than the familiarities with the Witcher universe, saying that obviously everyone should read the books, but that they also had to be able to take a step back and open their minds to alternatives. So she put together a group of people who generally appreciated fantasy but were unfamiliar with The Witcher, specifically to stimulate an adaptation that was open to change. In doing so, she ended up creating a team that was hostile to the original material and eager to modify it. And the results were clear to see, as they changed the ancient blood, the ritual for creating Witchers, made little use of the law of surprise, explored the relationship between Ciri and Geralt only superficially, and that between Ciri and Yennefer poorly, changed Dandelion from a light-hearted and likable character to an emo asshole, and changed the general way in which the story is told. I don't know what kind of skill they were looking for when they recruit the screenwriters, because the series is written terribly. Actually, a lot of the dialogues doesn't make sense in themselves. Another episode that highlighted how different the visions were within the production is the one involving director Alex Sakharov, who was supposed to direct several episodes of the first seasons, but was replaced by Mark Jobst at some point, and some of his scenes were reshot. To recap, Sakharov was supposed to direct episode 1, 2, 7 and 8, but in the end he only directed the second and half of the first. Mark Jobst reshot the entire Blaviken storyline in the first episode. And not only that, there were also 2 recasts. Emma Appleton and Peggy Lee replaced Millie Brady and Shane Atwool, who played Renfrey and Nohorn respectively. I'll leave you in the description the article with some photos of the pre-shoot material so you can see how it looked like. In an interview with Forbes, Sakharov said, "I'll be honest, I was blown away by your work in The Witcher." Really? It's the opposite for me. I judge my work quite critically there. Why? You see, in my perception, Eastern European literature has a completely different pace. It's no coincidence that Andrzej Sapkowski has so many storylines and characters. The producers set the task of setting the adaptation at an action pace and filling it with colorful special effects. That was their vision. My vision was very different and I tried to convey it to them, giving my arguments. Unfortunately, I was not considered convincing enough, so I decided to leave the project. Sorry to hear that. During my interview with Henry Cavill, he said you were one of the few directors who has the right approach to actors. You explain things softly, but very clearly. Glad to hear it. By the way, Henry Cavill is the best thing in The Witcher, in my opinion. He absolutely nailed the role. Moreover, he is a very flexible actor who is able to listen and learn. I sincerely hope that he has many interesting and good projects ahead. The fact is that Cavill was gone, and the production was so desperate that part of the marketing of the third season consists of billboards like this, which in my opinion only serves to make them look like losers, because if your show was good, you wouldn't need Cavill to make it worth watching. It's admitting defeat and incompetence in a rather pathetic way. The biggest changes they made in the series affect the very important elements of world building, such as the cosmology of Sapkowski's world, with those menhirs that do things and open portals were not present in the books. Ancient Blood was something radically different and had nothing to do with the creations of the Witchers. The law of surprise was much more present in the book and repeatedly intertwined the destiny of Geralt and Ciri. There was a much stronger sense of a father-daughter bond desired by fate. Yennefer never lost her power, and the idea of sacrificing Ciri never even crossed her mind, not even by mistake, and her whole past in general is slightly different. And the narrative in general was much more focused on Geralt and Ciri. All the political intrigues were something you perceive at work from time to time, but they weren't so prominent. In short, it's yet another series that, instead of seeking its own identity, tried to copy Game of Thrones formula and failed miserably. If you want to hear me talk more about The Witcher, I'd like to tell you something about the lore of the books and take the opportunity to highlight the mistakes in the series, so let me know in the comments. Henry Cavill is currently working on the Warhammer cinematic universe for Amazon. From what we know at the moment, it should revolve around Warhammer 4K. And although I've never been a big fan of Warhammer, simply because I've never really come into contact with that world, I'm intrigued by the lore and setting, and since I'm sure Henry Cavill will be faithful to the original material, I can't wait to see it. This video has been way too long, so thank you for sticking with me this far. I hope you enjoyed this review of everything that had happened over the last few years, so let me know what you think in the comment whenever you watch the series, play the games, read the books, or any combination of those things. And if you'd like me to analyze certain parts of the series or the book, let me know in the comments. I remind you can find my books on Amazon in ebook and paperback. It's science fiction, pretty introspective declination of science fiction. If you like it, please check it out, would help me so much. And don't forget to leave reviews everywhere. As always, I wish you happy reading and happy writing. Bye!